So now we're on the next step in lesson 10, which is now the editing process. So before, when we did equalization and compressing, that was just processing. And so we were adding effects to make sure that the audio is at a good place for our listeners. The next thing that we have to do with our podcast is we have to edit it. And now the editing process doesn't have to take that much time. It really depends on how much you want to edit and also what you want to leave in and take out of your podcast. So we're going to start with this. Like I suggested, when you're recording, we have a little intro. You can count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 or 3, 2, 1. So this is what this is. And when I was recording my episode. 3, 2, 1. So for me, I don't want that to be in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click right here. This is when my podcast actually starts.
Welcome to the Dude Make Something podcast. I'm your host, Jam.
And so to actually start playing the audio, you can hit the space bar or you can hit this up here, which is play. See, it says play or you can hit the space bar. So you play, stop.
Welcome to the Dude.
Or it can pause, but you don't really need to use pause that much. So what I want to do is I want to come right before I start talking, just a little bit of space here. And I'm going to highlight this just by using my mouse, clicking on it, highlight it, go back to the beginning. And this is all this space that I remember I told you guys to leave open. It's in case you have any issues or things that you need to edit or things you need to change. And it gives you time to prepare yourself. So now I want to get rid of this. And so either you can hit delete on your keyboard or you can come up to edit, click delete, or if you like using shortcuts, Control K or Apple K on your computer. So we're going to go ahead and click delete. And so now at the very beginning of the podcast, it starts like this.
Welcome to the Dude Make Something podcast. I'm your host, Jamiel Cal-Pin, where we discuss mental health and how we can use creativity to help get to a healthier mental state.
All right. So there are a couple of things that we can fix here so that the podcast runs a little bit smoother. So what I just edited before was the head. You have the head or the very beginning of your audio in your podcast, and then you have the very end, which is called the tail. And so if you want to get to the end or the tail of your podcast, you can hit the end key on your keyboard, which will take you to the end. Or you can hit this button right here. We'll skip to the end. So you can skip to the end and skip back to the beginning. So if you want to get to the beginning of the file, hit the home key. If you want to get to the end, just hit the end key. All right, so edit the head and the tail. So now that we got the beginning together, let's go ahead and deal with the end real quick. These are usually the easiest parts to deal with when creating your podcast, the head and the tail. So we're going to move to the end. And now again, we have all this space. And again, this is here if you have any issues or anything like that. So we're going to go ahead and do the same thing that we did in the beginning. And so this is how I use this cursor down here to move the audio. And if you have a mouse with a wheel, another way that you can scroll back and forth is you hold the shift key and you can use your wheel to scroll back and forth. And so, okay, so this is how my podcast episode ends.
Make some time, find some time to go be creative because it's beneficial for you and for those around you. Until next time, talk to you guys later. Peace.
All right, hit the space bar to stop. And so now I can, if I wanted to, just click right here and just go to the very end. But what I like to do is to have a little bit of space at the end, so about a second. And so this timeline is in seconds. So we're going to use about just a second of space. And then we're going to do the same thing that we did at the head. Highlight all the way to the end and click delete. And so now head, the beginning, and end, tail. Beginning and end handled. Good stuff. We're done with that. I hit the home key to go back to the beginning. All right, so now we're going to do editing inside of the podcast. We did the outsides, the bookends, head and the tails. Now we're going to do the inside. And this is where we're going to get rid of any flubs, like any mistakes that I may have made or any mistakes that you make or really long pauses. Like sometimes when I talk, when I'm doing my podcast, I have long pauses because I might be thinking about something or whatever. And those long pauses aren't usually, people don't like hearing that. Even in a normal conversation, people don't really like long, drawn out pauses. So to make it easier for my listeners, I come in and I edit and get rid of those sounds, get rid of those pauses. So that's what we're going to do during this part of the editing process. We did the heads and the tails. Now we're going to go in and get rid of any extra breaths, mess ups, or long pauses that may be in our recording. So let's go ahead and listen to this first section.
Welcome to the Dude Make Something podcast. I'm your host, Jamiel Cal-Pin, where we discuss mental health and how we can use creativity to help get to a healthier mental state.
All right, so there are a couple of things that I want to point out that I'm going to edit. So one common thing is maybe breaths. So maybe taking a really deep breath or like sighs, or maybe, I don't know, you sneezed or something like that. We want to edit that stuff out. So if you notice, there's a breath right here. I guess I needed to breathe. So what you can do, just like you did with the heads and the tails, you can highlight that. And when it's highlighted like that, you can just go ahead and hit delete. And see, it just gets rid of it and closes up that gap. And so let's play it back.
I'm your host, Jamiel Cal-Pin, where we discuss mental health and how we can use...
Let's play it from the beginning.
Welcome to the Dude Make Something podcast. I'm your host, Jamiel Cal-Pin, where we discuss mental health and how we can use creativity to help get to a health...
See, that part sounded more natural.
Welcome to the Dude Make Something podcast. I'm your host, Jamiel Cal-Pin, where we discuss mental...
And you don't even need the pause. People don't need to hear me breathing. And so the next thing that I notice is, and I'm sure you notice too, that there's kind of a delay when I'm talking right here.
Mental health and how we can use creativity to help get to a healthier mental state.
See, I'm kind of like stumbling over my words. And for some people, that's fine. Like they don't want to mess with it. And literally, you can leave podcasts exactly, if you want to leave the recording just how you want it, that's up to you. Some people do it because it feels like it's more authentic and it helps promote their brand of being authentic and honest and things like that. So if that works for you and you're comfortable with that, go for it. For me, and what I suggest is you try to clean it up just a little bit so that it's easier for your listeners. Some people, they're great at just talking and they don't have any issues. They don't need to change anything. They breathe appropriately. All that stuff is perfect. Well, I'm not one of those people. And I don't think most people are. And it's okay to go ahead and change and edit things because, again, you're trying to produce a good product and you want to create something that's easy listening for your audience. So right here, I'm going to take out this little gap.
Mental health and how we can use creativity to help get...
Just so it doesn't seem like there's this long delay, you know?
Activity.
So I'm just going to take out a little chunk like that. I'm going to delete that. And let's see what it sounds like now.
Mental health and how we can use creativity to help get to a healthier...
So that's a little bit better. And now we're going to do the same thing here because, again, I'm stumbling over my words.
To help get to a healthier...
So just close like that.
And how we can use creativity to help get to a healthier mental state. What's going on, guys? Thank you.
So that's a little bit better, you know. It's flowing, still flowing steadily. I still have a little bit of mess up in there. That's fine. But now it's not as broken up. And you want your audio to flow smoothly so that it's easy for your audience while they're listening to you speak. So now I'm going to go through and continue to make some edits. So this is another thing I want to edit. This is kind of a mess up. I duplicate what I'm saying.
And being in a good space overall. Good space overall.
So I say it twice. So I want to get rid of this, just like everything else. I'm going to go ahead and delete this. And now let's play it and see what it sounds like.
And being in a good space overall. You know, sometimes, some days,
Okay, so there's still a little pause here, so I'm going to go ahead and do this. And let's see how that sounds.
Protecting your mental, and being in a good space overall. Sometimes, some days things can be a little crazy outside, a little stressful, but we still got to do what we got to do to protect our mental health.
All right. So in the midst of all this, these are things that you would look out for as you go back and play your audio. If it's awkward pauses, mess ups, duplicating, things like that, all you need to do is, again, highlight and hit delete. And so, these are other things that you want to edit out, like ums. So I say a lot. I just did it. So you highlight that, and again, you delete.
Audio engineering and somewhat IT kind of stuff. And I've been doing that.
There goes another one.
For many years now.
So right here, I stutter and stumble a little bit. I'm not going to edit this just because I don't think it's that much of a distraction. And it's still kind of natural, and you can get the point. And it can be tedious trying to go in and fix everything. And so when creating your podcast, again, starting out, we're going to keep this as simple and easy as possible, because we want to help you get your first podcast done as soon and as easy as possible. So you don't have to edit out everything. This is fine. Literally, this is fine.
Men are supposed to be creative, and that looks different for different people. And I've talked about that in the previous episode. Once your job...
Okay, so here, even I said sorry.
Sorry.
I'm going to edit this part out.
Once your job...
So I said...
Once you're like... So, one...
Again, it's the same thing.
Once...
I'm trying to start the thought there, but I kind of fumble it along. So I'm going to go ahead, highlight all of this, and delete. So we can go back and take a listen.
Process and get to a healthier state, especially mentally. So once your job lines up with that, for some people, that's an amazing and a beautiful thing. A lot of people want that, and a lot of people are trying to get to that place where their passion lines up with their profession. Emotional release valve.
Okay, so this one I mess up a lot, so I'm going to try to edit this. So what you can do is, when you have to do something more technical, and again, this is just me. This is what I would do. But this is not necessary, but I'm going to show you these just in case you feel the same way that I do. So what you want to do is, if you're doing something technical, at this point, you're going to want to zoom in some more. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to View, Zoom, and then hit Zoom In. And so you can zoom in all the way. And so I like to use shortcut keys, which is Control 1, or for Mac users is Apple 1. So you can go very, very intricate, very, very deep, detailed. And so this is what it looks. If you go, say you want to go all the way in. Now it's just little dots. And that's all of this is just digital information, but it's all the audio that you recorded. So we don't need to be there. So I just want to zoom in where I try to say emotional release valve.
Emotional release valve. Release. I don't have an emotional release.
That's that part right there, right? So I'm going to zoom in. And from right here, this is about where I say emotional.
Emotional release lab. Emotional release lab.
So now I'm going to do this. So let's see what that sounds like.
Release. I don't have an emotional release valve.
Okay, that's still a little off.
I don't have an emotional.
So this is the actual area. So what I like to do is I'm going to zoom in. And so again, your audio is recorded sound is recorded in waves. So these are just different waveforms. When you're making a detailed edit like this, what you want to do is you want to come right where the wave meets the line. And the line is just telling you there's a zero. There's no volume there. So you want to find a zero spot. And then I'm going to highlight that and then go to another zero spot. Right about there. And then I'm going to delete. So let's hear what this sounds like. It might still be off.
Release. I don't have an emotional release valve.
That's a little bit better.
Release. I don't have an emotional release valve.
That's good enough. And so you see, you can go in and make detailed changes like that. And again, to zoom in, come up to view, zoom in, zoom out. And then normal is where we are right now. So let's keep going.
But it's important that we identify what the...
So right here, we have something else that I would delete. It's just like my lip smacking. So here, yeah. So I don't want that. And I don't think people listening want to hear that. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that.
They're excited about and things like that.
Another space.
Make some time. Find some time to go be creative because it's beneficial for you and for those around you. Until next time, talk to you guys later. Peace.
All right. We made it all the way to the end. Made it all the way to the end of editing. And again, your podcast doesn't have to be as long as mine, or it could be a lot longer. But it is important to go back and edit it. You want to go in and take out any mistakes, or maybe even there are things that you realize, hey, I didn't like that. I don't want to say that. What I've shown you can help you to go ahead and get rid of that stuff and edit it so that it's presentable for you to share with the world. Now that we've edited the heads and the tails, and we've edited the inside of the podcast to the way that we want it, the way that we like it, listening to it from beginning to end, we're going to move on to the next step in the editing process, which is called loudness normalization. And I will show you that coming up next.